This is a short video showing how to evaluate and manage outstanding wage or withholding payments in the UAN payroll software. So you're trying to clean up some old issues like old outstanding payroll payments. That's a very good goal, but I'm going to start this video with a couple of words of caution. Old outstanding payroll payments are not as straightforward as old outstanding accounting payments. The wage or withholding payment you see as outstanding may have been posted by mistake. You must do some solid research before taking action. Were you the fiscal officer that posted the outstanding payment? Okay, yes, I have some more questions for you. I want to know if you remember anything odd about that outstanding payment. Was there something special or were there issues with it? I want my audience to understand that if you were the fiscal officer that posted the item, you're probably going to remember if there was something odd, like the withholding agency never received the check in the mail, or even more important, this item was posted by mistake but not voided in the system. It still needs to be voided. You'll probably remember if there were issues like this, and you'll know where to find the records associated with the payment so you can refresh your memory before you take action. If you were not the fiscal officer at the time the item was posted, please do not take action on an outstanding payroll item until you have done some solid investigation. You're going to have to prove whether that old outstanding item that you're trying to clean up represents a real paycheck or withholding payment. What's that? You want to know what I mean by real? Well, okay, let me explain. Why would a payroll payment posted in the UAN software not represent a real... Oh, hi Santa. Well, we're kind of in the middle of a video right now. Can you come back later? Great. Okay, thanks. Okay, where was I? What was I talking about? Okay, the difference between real or fantasy. Oh, that's funny. Real or fantasy and Santa shows up. Everybody knows Santa's real. Okay, let's move forward. Let's say that fantasy means an item was posted by mistake but never corrected. The only thing real about it is that it was really posted. Let me give you a couple of common examples. The former fiscal officer posted a wage with errors, found the mistake before giving the check to the employee, and set that check aside. They posted a new wage that was accurate, gave the accurate check to the employee. Yeah, you're seeing the problem here. They did not void the first wage. It remains outstanding. It's not real, but it looks real in the software. It should have been and still must be voided. Prepare yourself. This is no longer just about cleaning up old outstanding items. This wage was probably reported on tax and retirement reports as if it was real. You will probably have to file amended reports and request refunds for all withholdings that you confirm were reported and paid. Now you're beginning to understand my caution warning. Payroll payments are more complex than accounting payments. Make no mistake, the work needs to be done. Don't give up. But the solid investigation has to be completed to clean up properly. Let me give you another example. The former fiscal officer posted wages as usual for all employees. One employee was not entitled to a paycheck. Why not? Why wouldn't an employee be entitled to a paycheck? Well, they quit before the pay period began, and either no one told the fiscal officer the employee was gone, or the fiscal officer simply forgot to deactivate the employee and added the wage as usual and didn't catch it. How about this one? The employee was placed on disciplinary leave without pay. Don't ignore this one. One of our new fiscal officers had this happen this year. She found the old outstanding warrant from a prior year and wanted to clean it up. And when she was urged to do the research, she found it in the minutes that the employee was placed on administrative leave, proving the employee was not entitled to the paycheck. She needed to void it. So this does happen in the real world. And another example, there was a part-timer that didn't work any hours that pay period. If you've got some intermittent part-timers, they don't always work every pay period. You could accidentally add one by mistake, and you posted the payment by mistake and have not voided that paycheck. Keep in mind, a paycheck posted by mistake needs to be voided immediately But in these examples, the fiscal officer fails to void the check. It's not real, but it looks real in the software. It should have been and still must be voided. And again, it was probably really reported on tax and retirement reports as if it were real. The software can't tell that there's a mistake. You have to take action by voiding an item for the software to know it's not to be included. How about an outstanding withholding payment example? There's an outstanding withholding payment posted in UAN. If it's a warrant, it probably indicates the check was not mailed. If it's electronic, it probably means that it was posted in UAN, but nobody actually went to a website and made an online payment. It's not real, but it looks real in the software. It must be voided. And then the next problem you're going to be facing is trying to figure out if you have an unpaid balance due. If that withholding payment didn't represent a payment made to a withholding agency, do you still owe the money? The key to investigating outstanding payroll warrants, I bet you've already guessed it, paperwork. That's right. Here's another warning. If the former fiscal officer often did not reconcile with the bank, beware. The check may have really cleared the bank, but was left outstanding on the bank reconciliations in UAN. It's a mistake that it's outstanding. You're going to have to review the bank reconciliation reports for the cleared items and compare those to the bank statements and check images that actually cleared the bank. This check may need to be cleared in your system. If it truly did not clear the bank, look in your payment files. Physically voided checks are supposed to be retained. Auditors verify that there are not missing unaccounted for warrants. If you've taken over for someone that left the office in a mess, you may find most of your old outstanding warrants in the large piles of paperwork lying around. If the checks are dated in prior years, yep, you're going to have to go into the old stored records. Be diligent in your search. Finding the physical check is proof it was not given to the employee or mailed to the withholding agency because you have the check. Now you know the outstanding payment can be voided. Creating more work. Yes, I'm afraid that's true. If you're voiding an old wage, do the research. Confirm it was or was not reported to tax or retirement agencies. If that wage was outstanding in the software, it would have been included automatically on your tax and retirement reports. The fiscal officer would have had to manually edit it off the reports and payments. If it was reported, you're going to need to file amended reports and request the refunds. And remember, that refund does not belong to the employee. This was not a real wage. That money belongs to your entity. If you're voiding a withholding as an old outstanding item, you still have more research. Was it paid from accounting on a different warrant or paid online? Is there an accounting voucher? Or was it paid online and there's never been anything posted at all? Or was it never paid at all and there's still a balance due? These questions have to be answered. What if you searched but did not find the physical check? Well, you're going to have to continue to the next level of investigation. Does the employee still work for your entity? It's an important question. If the answer is no, check the personnel files. When did they quit or get terminated? Check with the department heads or supervisors. Read the minutes before and after the paycheck dates. Can you find a time card for the hours paid? The answer to these questions may indicate the wage was added long after the employee left and was simply posted with other wages by accident. Again, it should have immediately been voided, but it wasn't. Another thing to check. Is there another paycheck to the same employee for the same or close to post date? If you find there are two paychecks around the same time period, they might have different pay periods if one of them was a mistake. One is probably a mistake check that was not voided and the second check was given to the employee. Look at the time card to see which paycheck matches the time card. Or, another level of crazy, do both paychecks together equal the total the employee should have been paid? What do I mean? Well, the employee turned in a time card that included 2 hours of overtime. The fiscal officer only paid them for the regular hours. A couple of days later, the employee stopped in the office and the fiscal officer added a new wage just for the 2 hours of overtime. So this employee is entitled to both checks, but perhaps the overtime check was so small he never got around to taking it to the bank. He's still entitled to the second check. So think about the different scenarios that could take place, not just the examples that I've given you. That's why you're going to have to research and find the reason this check is outstanding. If the item you're investigating is a payroll withholding voucher, withholding vouchers posted in UAN should have a corresponding online payment. Log into the tax agency or state retirement website and review the online payment history. If there's no corresponding online payment, void the voucher. It doesn't represent a real payment. Do you still have a balance due that needs to be paid? So if that voucher doesn't represent a real payment, did what was due get paid? Like I said, you need to be diligent in your research. Keep notes on what you find for audit. It's going to be important for you to be able to untangle this and show what you found to the auditor. Some of these checks may represent real wages that belong to the employees. I realize you just came asking for an easy answer to get rid of these old outstanding payments, and I have given you piles of research to do. Try not to be overwhelmed. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of questions that need to be answered. Let me take you to the UAN software and show you some reports and the payroll payment utility. It is October 18th in Training Land, and I'm going to show you some reports that will help you do that physical research. Remember, the UAN software is not going to be the only place you do the research, because what's in UAN looks like real payments. Your physical records need to prove they're real payments so that you know what to do with the outstanding item in UAN. So the first thing we want to look at is the bank reconciliation report. So we're in accounting reports and statements, and I choose bank reconciliation reports. And you can see my last posted bank reconciliation is August 31st, and I have my September 30th bank reconciliation in the batch. Now the batch item is not going to be useful if you haven't marked the checks that cleared the bank. If the batch bank reconciliation has already been completed, just not posted, it's going to be useful. So let's take a look at the September batch bank reconciliation, and I'll show you how far along I am. Here's page 3 of my batch bank reconciliation report. It looks just like a finalized bank reconciliation report. It's just not posted. Now I have on my bank reconciliation in UAN marked all of the cleared items from my September bank statement, and I have the green check mark that I'm reconciled. So I am as close to having this posted as possible. So it just depends on where you are in your batch process whether you can use that. First, let me highlight for you the payroll items. Okay, these are all outstanding payroll items, and we can see the first one on the list is an electronic withholding payment to the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund that was originally posted September 17th, 2018. Well, remember what I told you. An electronic payment posted in UAN would have required someone to go to the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund website and process an online payment. Well, if it didn't clear by the September 30th bank reconciliation, I don't think I made the online payment. I would actually go to the OPNFPF website and check that out. And what I find in researching it is the online payment was never made. There are two 2017 paychecks, Jerry Jones and Harold Lands. I need to know if those are real paychecks that were given to those employees before I move forward. And my first phone call is not to the employees. The current year checks, I have a March 3rd check for Mr. Build. He's notorious for not cashing his checks. Again, if I know that, I'd give him a call and say, hey, bring in that March check, I'll reissue it to you. If I don't know, if I wasn't the fiscal officer, my first verification is to find out if that is a wage that should have been distributed to Mr. Build. Okay, and I've got two items later, a July 29th check to John Smith and a payment August 26th to Art Part. Both of these guys are part-time workers. They don't come in every single pay period, and they're laid off at the end of the summer, so I could have a mistake there. So here's my working starting list of outstanding payments. Let's go take a look at some other reports that will be helpful. In accounting and reports, payment reports. But I don't want payment listing. I need more information than the payment listing gives. So I want payment register detail. And if I want to see all of the checks that are still outstanding from last year, I need to be very careful what I'm doing. Let me show you. I changed the year to 2017. The system will automatically default to the range the whole year. So in the list is every payment for the year 2017. Well, I don't want every payment. I want outstanding payments. So I go to the Filters tab and change status from posted to outstanding. You are not finished. Please do not select and take action on every check in this list. Notice in the status column, some of them say outstanding, others have a cleared status. Let me explain. When you ask the software to show you a 2017 report of outstanding items, the list will show you the outstanding items as of December 31st, 2017. That's what it's supposed to do. But some of those items have cleared the bank. Almost all of them have cleared the bank. So the software is showing you the list of everything that was outstanding as of December 31st, 2017. It's also showing you which items have cleared the bank since then. The cleared items are not a problem. If you click on the status heading at the top of the list, the software will sort your items together, and now I select only my outstanding items and print that report. I'll display for class. If I find that any of these checks need to be voided, I need to know what fund paid the original payment. If they need to be voided, I have to put the money back into the fund, not the appropriation account. So this report will be helpful moving forward with my investigation. Remember, you have to check your physical record for proofs. Let's go to payroll reports and statements. And I'll start with wage reports. The wage detail report is very nice. Let me show you how to isolate this for just one check. And I'm going to show you Robert Build's check for this year. Remember, I have a 2018 check. The easiest way to isolate a check is to use selected period and type in the outstanding check's post date. Now I have a list of only checks posted that day, and I can pick the one person on the list and display that. Now I'm displaying, you're going to be wanting to print this information and take notes. So I can see in the upper right corner, this is check number 3552 that's still outstanding, and it was originally posted March 3rd, and it was to Mr. Robert Build for the pay period 2/1 through 2/28. Let's scroll down. I can see that he was paid for one zoning board meeting. And if I check the minutes of the zoning board meeting, the minutes would indicate whether he showed up at the meeting and was entitled to the pay. If he was not entitled to the pay and you're going to void this check, remember you need to know what taxes were paid on his behalf, because you're going to have to amend the tax reports from March when you void this check. So he was a Social Security member instead of an OPERS member. You can see that there was no federal or state tax taken out, only Medicare, Social Security, and Buckeye Village. So this report is going to help you know the taxes or retirement that need to be corrected. Closing that report. From the drop-down list, the wages and overtime detail, also very helpful. Let me isolate this to Mr. Jerry Jones's check. It was a 2017 check. So I changed my year to 2017. When I'm looking at the wages and overtime, this report is going to help me see if there are two checks right around the same time period when there shouldn't be. So I want it to be the year. I'm going to select that employee and I'm going to display that for you. All right, you can see this is a very busy report. So first we need to look at the left side, and then we also will need to look at the actual wages and overtime paid, but we can't see it all on the screen unless I zoom in. Okay, I'm showing you the whole grid for the year for Mr. Jones. And what I'm looking for are two paychecks side by side, maybe with the same pay period, maybe not. But he's paid bi-weekly. I would be looking for two checks that were not 2 weeks apart. So your grid is going to help you see the checks that were posted. You're going to have to identify your outstanding check on that list. In my case, it's the last one on the list, 3482. Okay, so identify the outstanding check, compare it to other checks. And I'm really not going to use a scenario here. There doesn't appear to be anything wrong. He was paid for 10 hours 2 weeks before and paid for 10 hours on this paycheck, but that doesn't seem unusual. He's a part-time cemetery worker. Sometimes they don't work very many hours. And I can see multiple paychecks for 10 hours. So nothing is showing up that would give me any indication that this is a problem. If you're looking at a paycheck of a seasonal worker, the first thing you want to look at is, did they turn in a time card for this pay period? Because if they didn't, if his last paycheck was 11/6 and he didn't work the next pay period, the fiscal officer posted that last check by mistake, and it's probably laying around in a pile somewhere. You have to compare these to the physical time cards. Let me zoom back out. I know the print's tiny, but you'll have to look at this on your software. You'll see that the wages and overtime report shows regular hours, any leave paid, overtime hours. Compare the hours paid on the outstanding check to the time card that you find. Okay, let's take a look at another report. Remember, if we found that Mr. Jones was not supposed to be paid, this was not a real paycheck, I would need to look at the tax and retirement reports to see if it was reported. The fiscal officer would have had to manually edit this off of the OPRS report. Let me show you an OPRS report. So we're going to go into external forms, OPRS contributions, and change my year to 2017. Now I've got to warn you, a lot of fiscal officers don't use the UAN software to prepare monthly statements, and usually the reason for that is they're not using the software properly and they are fudging their OPRS monthly reports on the OPRS website. So I can't guarantee you're going to find anything in this list. And furthermore, just because you see an item in this list does not mean that's what they filed. They may have added the OPRS report in UAN and not entered that identical information on the website. So if, at the very least, you can see what was produced in UAN. You would still have to check the OPRS website and see if that's what was reported. So I'm going to pull this up as an edit, and I'm going to click the tiny plus sign. Let me scroll up. Click the plus sign next to Jerry Jones, and it will show me the details of what was reported. So this shows me that the outstanding check, 3482, for the pay period that was indicated, was actually reported to OPRS in the UAN software. I would need to look online or contact OPRS and see if this 8250 was reported. And if so, and it's not a real wage, you find out that there's no time card, he shouldn't have been paid, and the physical check is in your possession, you're going to have to file an amended report taking Jerry Jones off the November report, and you're going to request a refund for the $825 employee share and the $1155 employer share. If this is not a real paycheck, both the employee and employer share belong to the entity, not the employee. So you've got some amending to do. Let me show you what it looks like on a payment. So just because the report shows that the item was included, maybe on the website they actually left it off when they manually typed it in. Look at the payment too. So I'm going to look at the withholding payment report. From the drop-down list, my favorite is withholding payment detail. That shows you the employees and the paychecks included on the payment. So I'm going to change this to 2017. And there's my OPRS. This December OPRS payment is for November. So this is the right report. This report shows me everything included on the payment to OPRS dated 12/7. And this is an electronic payment, so it was paid on their website. I scroll down and there is Jerry Jones and check number 3482. So if I find this isn't a real check the employee should have been given, it's in my possession. I found the physical check. He quit 2 weeks before, was laid off at the end of the season, and was not entitled to this paycheck. It's a mistake. I'm going to have to ask for the $8.25 and the $11.55 back from OPRS. So this is a report that will show me what was included, and if you don't see Jerry Jones, you would probably see that as an unpaid withholding. If I need to see what federal taxes were paid on this payment, did it include Jerry Jones? Again, my withholding payment detail is my go-to. And if I scroll down alphabetically by employee, there is Jerry Jones. And again, check number 3482 is on here, and it shouldn't be. So I can see $1.20 in Medicare should not have been paid. Now the other check, 3467, that's a real check. It cleared the bank. 3482 is still outstanding, and perhaps I proved this was not a real check. So I'm just showing you different reports to help you see what was included on a payment so you can file amended reports and request the refund. So I really like that withholding payment detail to show me if the check that should never have been issued has paid withholdings. So there's some reports that could be helpful in your research. Now let's go to the utility, payroll utilities, and payroll payment utility. This is how you actually handle the items once you discover whether they're real and need to be reissued or whether they should have been voided and need to be voided. So the payroll payment utility only works on current year items. It will show you any outstanding prior year items, but you can't take action on them in the payment utility. So we're going to show just the 2018 outstanding items, and I'm going to help myself by changing the status to outstanding. So I'm going to give you some examples. If I find that Robert Bill's March 3rd check is a real check he should have received, he attended the meeting, he was given the check. When I called him, he said, yeah, I've got that laying on the desk, but it's outdated and the bank won't cash it. I asked him to bring it in. He does, and I'm going to reissue the check. So current year checks that were damaged or they're stale dated can be reissued. Reissue preserves the tax and retirement from the earlier period. So stay away from the void button. You want to reissue. See, within the reissue process, it voids and reissues. So we'll click OK to that. My reissue date is not the original date. It's either today or if I've got to get that approved at the next meeting. So I'm going to date it today because I'm permitted to do that. If you have to date those your next meeting, do so. And then I would always include in the stub note information about the check this is replacing. So it's stale dated. Some of you entities have printed right on your checks, not valid after 90 days or something like that. And sometimes the bank won't cash it. Sometimes they still do. So I'm going to reissue to the next good check number, and I click OK. So that's how you reissue a current year warrant. Now let me use another example. We have a check for John Smith. And this check is dated 7/29, and when I did my research, I found that this check does not belong to John Smith. The physical check was still in our possession and it had void marked on it. So the fiscal officer at the time knew this was a mistake, but they never voided it in the software. So I'm going to mark it now and click void. And I'm going to click my void date. It's today. And I get this message, at least one of these selected wages has a paid withholding. So remember, he wasn't entitled to this check. It should have been voided immediately. But instead of voiding it, the fiscal officer has now left it outstanding and paid withholdings. Yes, I need a list. Okay, the software is going to show me all of the withholdings that have been paid. So you can see right now, I am going to be requesting a refund. I've got to amend my OPERS report and request a refund of the employee and employer share. In addition, I have paid Ohio income tax for that paycheck. Again, I found this was not a real paycheck. It was a mistake posted in the UAN software. It's got paid withholdings. Now there is a process to this. The software is showing you exactly what you have to do. You have to have account code 1000-990-990 activated in your software. You'd have to go to accounting, maintenance, appropriation accounts, and add that number if you don't have it. You also have to have appropriations in that account. You can see the software on this report is telling me I have an unencumbered balance of $1,500. So each year I appropriate to this account code a little bit just to catch mistakes, such as this. If you don't have any appropriation in that account, the software will show you in the additional appropriation required how much you need to reallocate to this account. So I would print this report. As you can see, I'm ready to proceed. So I'm going to click close, and the software shows me, do you want to void the select wages anyway? If I didn't have appropriations in place, I would have to say no and go do that and come back and void the check. I'm ready to go, so I'm going to say okay. And this amount, the paid withholdings, has been reallocated to $1,990.990. So no matter where the withholdings had been paid from, the road fund, the cemetery fund, it makes no difference. They've now been reallocated to $1,990.990. So my general fund has those payments now, and when I get refunds, it's going to be credited to the general fund. We'll click OK. And it's telling me, oh no, I didn't even think about that. If I already filed the quarterly 941 or the quarterly ODJFS report, it included these wages. Oh, so if I already filed those quarterly reports, once I void this, I have to file those amended reports. You don't do that on UAN. Those are reports that you get from those entities. So you'd have to contact the IRS or contact ODJFS and find out how to amend your report, but it'll be up to you to amend those reports, and in the case of the 941, request a refund. Again, if you already filed OPERS or OP&F and it included this employee, you're going to have to contact them and file amended reports and the paperwork to request a refund. Same with school, state, any other withholding. This was not a real paycheck. Remember, that wage detail will show you everything that was withheld, and then this report that you printed when you voided the check will show you exactly what was overpaid. So click OK, and then follow up with that process. Okay, so we reissued a check, we avoided a check, both in the current year. Now let's take care of that outstanding withholding voucher posted in September. So I'm going to change the all to withholding electronic to shorten my list. And this is the payment that showed outstanding on my September bank reconciliation. So on my bank statement, there is no payment to the Ohio Police and Fire Pension Fund, and that should have cleared the bank. So I go to the OP and FPF website, or I give them a call, and they tell me, you filed your report, but no payment was received and you didn't set up a payment on our website. You have to go to the website and actually make the payment. So you have two choices. This is dated 9/17 and you didn't make the payment. You can actually make the payment right now on their website and then wait until this clears. But if you want it to be dated on the same date that you're actually making the payment, we're going to void it as of today. And then go to payroll transactions, withholding payments, and go right to their website and make that payment. And post a new voucher dated today. Oh, and look, I'm getting all these messages. I have old things. And because I have overpayment credits from that check I voided from March, I'm going to get another message. I am giving OP and FPF their money on their website for August. This is the August payment that I should have made early September. I post the voucher. You have to go to the website. I highly recommend that once you make the online payment, print the confirmation report and staple it to your voucher. So you've got proof both were done. I've got them posted in UAN and the online payment was made. Now let's take care of those prior year items. When we have a prior year item that you find is not real, or if it needs to be issued in the current year. So either way, you're going to have to void it in accounting utilities. So I'm going to go to accounting utilities and fund balance adjustment utility. I'm going to click the add button, and it's telling you if you do a fund balance adjustment, it should only be done if absolutely necessary. Well, I do need to void the prior year warrant. It's never going to clear the bank. And I have documented why it's being voided. It's not going to change last year. It's going to change my current year beginning balance, and they will be closely scrutinized at audit. So keep your documentation. I would use the payment register detail report to show me what funds need adjusted. So from the drop-down list, I'm going to choose the cemetery fund. It is a prior year warrant adjustment. That's the most common, so we default to that one. And I choose the check right off the drop-down list. So this is Jerry Jones check 3482. I'm putting the money back in the fund. Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to do this as of the September date so I can show you how to take care of that on the bank reconciliation. Okay, please type a very detailed description in here. I could go either way. So in my case, I'm going to use the example, the prior year wage was posted by mistake and left outstanding. It does not belong to the employee. If it does belong to the employee, change your reason. Now here's an example of what you would type if you find that it is a real wage and the employee is entitled to the money. So employee lost paycheck, confirmed it has not cleared the bank, and the net wage issued again from 2018 accounting. So it's not going to go back into the payroll. This money was already taxed and added to retirement reports. So if it was a real wage, he's entitled to the net paycheck, $72.73, but it's going to come from accounting so that it doesn't get taxed and retirement reported again. So make sure you understand the difference. Okay, so type your reason, whatever it is, click post. If the net wage was paid by multiple funds, that payment register detail report would show you how much to post toward each fund. And you would do multiple adjustments until all the funds equal the total check. So now we're going to close. Yes, print your fund balance adjustment report, put it with the payment register detail report. And let me show you what this is going to look like on the bank reconciliation. Still got my September reconciliation in batch. I'm going to edit it, and it's going to tell me other things have been posted. And adjustments exist. Please don't ignore this. So I've got the green check mark. I am reconciled, but I have outstanding adjustments. I need to manage them. So we'll say OK to that message. On the primary payments tab, you will find, notice this warrant, Jerry Jones, this is the one I voided as a prior year warrant. It is the only one that has the box. So when you void a prior year warrant properly using the fund balance adjustment utility, a box will appear so you can check mark the item and the software marks it void. And then you go to the primary adjustments tab. Notice when I check marked that, it threw me out of balance. That's because I have to also clear the fund balance adjustment. Brought me back into balance. So it requires the check mark for void on the primary payments tab, and the fund balance adjustment has to be cleared. If you found this was a real wage and the employee is entitled to the money, remember I told you don't put this back in payroll. The amount was already taxed and reported to retirement. We're simply going to add the net paycheck back through accounting. You would use the same appropriation account used on the original paycheck, but through the accounting software. Let me show you that. The first thing you'll have to check is if the employee is added as a vendor payee. If they've never been paid through accounting, that's going to be the first problem. So I'll go to General, Maintenance, and Vendor Payees. And I'm looking for Jerry Jones. He's not an active vendor. Let me check the inactive list. Nope. I'm going to click the Add button. And I would go to the trouble of adding an address, but I'm not going to do that for training purposes. Save and close. Now I can go to Accounting, Transactions, and Payments. Let me pull up the report for that original wage so you can see where I'm getting the information. Here's the payment register detail we printed earlier for the outstanding 2017 checks. Here's our original warrant to Jerry Jones. It was issued through the payroll software, and I want to use the information from the original check as I'm issuing this from accounting current year. Let me open the add payment form up. The screen isn't big enough to show both side by side, so I'll give you little bits and pieces. So first I'm going to choose my vendor. Again, you have to go to vendor payees first for them to be available for the payment. My date, that's either going to be today if I'm allowed to issue checks between meetings. If not, it's going to be the date of our next meeting. The amount is going to come from my report. Let's take a look over here. $72.73. They're only entitled to the net paycheck, what was originally on the check. You also have an additional tab. You can type information there. And we're going to distribute that. I'm going to use a direct account, and in my case I'm using the exact same account number that was used on the original warrant. So if the employee's salary was paid from the cemetery fund, I'm going to use the same account code when at all possible. And the amount is distributed. If you've budgeted exactly what you need for wages in 2018, you are going to have to do some reallocation before year end, because this $72.73 is taking part of your appropriations planned for the current year. If you've already got a cushion built into that account code, it shouldn't represent any problems. Save and then, of course, post. I'm not going to make you watch me post this item. That would be a waste of your time. That wraps up how to evaluate and manage outstanding payroll items. I hope the information in this video was helpful. If you need assistance with the steps shown in this video, contact UAN support using the information provided on the screen. All UAN Housekeeping Series videos qualify for House Bill 10 training. If you have any questions about self-reporting your training hours, please call or email your question using the contact information you see on the screen now. If you watch more videos in the housekeeping series and their combined time is at least 30 minutes, you can self-report the combined time.